Hi, I'm Don. Today we paint another creature caster miniature. This is my entry for Orktober, and we'll be painting with Army Painter speed paints and of course Cuttlefish Colors. So watch as we turn this mini into this. This Ork lady is also my entry for my challenge with my daughter Nico. The painting video of my daughter's orange orc is of course at her YouTube channel, so do check it out. Hi, I'm Don. Welcome back to my studio. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. And of course, this channel won't be possible without the support of my patrons. We start the base painting with Army Painter Speed Paints 1.0. This is not a tutorial because I'm still getting the hang of using the speed paints. And also, since these are the old speed paints which are now phased out, I'm waiting for my Speed Paints 2.0 before I could actually create tutorials. However, I'm really enjoying using these paints to paint the base colors of my miniatures these days. I usually use this during late night painting and then let it dry overnight. So this mini is basically just a fun paint off with my daughter Nico. Basically, a couple of days ago, Nico borrowed my table because of the red grass lamp and took photos of her Gunpla trophies. Her trophies are big, a couple of golds, I think, a bronze, and a second runner-up. Well, basically 5 trophies or 5 awards. And then I got irked and then challenged her to a painting challenge. Kidding aside, I kinda like involving my kids in every hobby that I do. May it be like fish or gunpla when I used to do gunpla, and now miniature painting. This is actually, I think, my daughter Nico's first finished model or miniature, or maybe her second, but the first one was just a zombie, so it was easy painting. It doesn't she did not took it a bit seriously than now. And with this one, it was kinda challenged because while I was looking at her work while she was painting, she's doing pretty well. So practically, the orange orc that my daughter Nico painted was her first finished, seriously painted miniature. And I do think it came out really good. Actually, all my 3 kids are kinda talented. They could all draw, including my 2 daughters and my son. And of course, they could all paint. My son kinda likes terrain building and painting a bit more. My middle child, my daughter Sam, is into drawing and painting. And obviously Nico is a gunpla champion. So basically, it's so easy for me to involve my kids with any hobby that I do or any creative endeavor that I do. May it be drawing for children's books way back and now miniature painting and even gunpla. So it's super fun. The hobby is so much more fun and super special if you invite and do it with your kids. Now we use the speed paint medium, and the speed paint medium is more transparent than most mediums. Also, I find that it's a bit thicker, but it's super nice. It dissolved and added transparency to the speed paint really well. So now we're basically finished with the base colors of the model. It's now basically adding a bit more highlights and a bit more shade to finish off this mini. Now use my Painter V2 Red Grass Wet Palette. Like I said earlier, I'm still getting used to using SpeedPaint. So I tend to over paint in some areas. So in the video right now, you could see that I'm kind of cleaning up areas where I overspilled or I overpainted. Like the leather parts, there's a bit of green paint, and like the skulls in some parts has a bit of the other colors. So I had to repaint base color or clean up some edges so that I have good definition of the individual colors. After this cleanup work, we now move on to highlighting. I always say this in my videos, if you want to push your painting to more than tabletop standard, you have to do a bit more highlighting. I'm using a lot of colors but in very small amounts here. So this we could actually call micro layering because I'm painting over very small areas with different colors, but at the same time I'm still doing layering, meaning I'm painting smaller and smaller area as the colors get lighter. At this point, I'm basically just pushing the highlights on the area where I want more highlights. Like, I defined that the highlight area is on the top left of the model, and I'm basically painting more highlights there. Note that I did not thin or I do not thin my Cuttlefish Colors whenever I'm painting highlights. With this one, I'm using guac green as a pre-highlight color before I move on to Tainted Snow. Tainted Snow is basically ice yellow for other brands. Now here we continue to push the highlights so that we have really nice contrast. But at the same time, I'm using a Tainted Snow which is yellowish, very pale yellow, so that we add color depth at the same time. You do not need to blend these colors at this stage, you just need to really define where you want the highlights to be. And then once you really define your highlights, then if you want, you could actually glaze on top of this so that you soften these highlights. However, when you're trying to soften your pre-highlight or highlight colors, I would recommend to use different colors. Now you see me using this very vibrant green. This will kinda soften the edges of the previous color, which was ice yellow or Tainted Snow, and also at the same time add a bit more color depth. Now if you want to totally soften your highlights, you could use colonial white or whatever white paint that you have and glaze it on top of your painting. In that manner, you add another color to your equation, to your painting, so that again, it has more color depth. The main lesson here is that when you're glazing and blending all your colors, your layering, you don't really need to use the same colors that you used for layering. You could introduce new colors so that again you add more color depth and at the same time you blend your previous layering. Now you could see in the video I'm adding my final highlights with a very white paint and I'm applying it in very small areas. So basically, we'll do this with the rest of the miniature, like the leather parts, the hair, and the magenta loincloth. But I did not record that on video already. So basically, you just highlight those parts, and then if you want, you could blend it or tone it down with other colors. And of course, you could continue to push them, but if you find that your highlighting is too much, just apply a wash or glaze down your highlighting. Now you see in the video, I'm glazing down or adding shade to the shade areas or shadow areas of the model. I'm using the Deep from Cuttlefish Colors. This is a turquoise-like color and it's a glaze paint. So it's perfect to add on the shade areas, adding again more color depth and at the same time, like softening the blends and the layering that we did earlier. So again, when glazing, you don't necessarily need to use the colors that you use for layering. You could do glazing with other colors so that you introduce more color depth to your painting. Now, before I reveal, a ton of thanks to all my patrons, because without my patrons, this channel won't be possible. Now you see my daughter's first finished, completed like miniature painting, and I'm very proud of her work. The highlighting is pretty good. She used Army Painter to paint the base colors too, and then eventually did layering with and highlighting with Cuttlefish Colors and other paints. As I expected, Nico, my daughter, painted her Ork orange because she's a Gunpla modeler and painter. She doesn't care that Ork should be green. So I'm not surprised that her Ork is color orange. But it turned out okay. I think it turned out nice and refreshing. But again, I wasn't surprised. I must say though that Orks should be green. So she loses this challenge. Now here is my Lady Ork side by side with Nico's Orange Ork. I really enjoyed this challenge. There was a little bit of pressure because I've been painting for like a couple of years now, more than a couple of years in terms of miniature painting, and Nico is a full-time Gunpla modeler. So I hope, please don't tell me that she did better than me in the painting of these miniatures. I must say though that painting the base colors with Army Painter kinda saves so much time. Like if you use the Army Painter speed paints as your base colors, it will give you a nice shading already. It has very like deep shades on the recesses, a little bit of highlight areas on the raised areas, and then it's a matter of just adding more layering or adding more highlights, pushing the highlights further, or even adding a bit more shade so that you have a bit more color depth. Basically, the Army Painter speed paints kinda gives you a really quick sketch or like base color or foundation to your miniature, wherein you see where you should put the highlights and you see where you should put more like shades or shadows, and it's going to like you're going to paint miniatures so much faster with these paints. And of course, using Cuttlefish Colors on top of the speed paints is like made the painting so much easier because Cuttlefish Colors are pre-glaze paints and layering with them gives me very nice like subtle transitions almost instantly. So although I had to let the Speed Paints 1.0 cure overnight and then eventually give it like a very quick matte varnish, layering on top of it with Cuttlefish Colors was such a really enjoyable process. I'm expecting my complete set of Speed Paints 2.0, meaning I don't really have to paint like late night and have the paints cure overnight, meaning I will be painting much faster. So since me and my daughter enjoyed painting with speed paints and Cuttlefish Colors here, do expect more of this process in my channel. And lastly, hopefully you enjoyed watching this video and of course you see or you like the finished models and the quality of the painting. That's it, Pansit. I hope you like this video and watch these other videos.